Hey there, Cinemaster fans, hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. Our movie begins in the Peruvian region in 1973. Here is Dr. Webb, who, despite being in the last month of her pregnancy, embarks on this journey to explore a rare and remarkable type of spider. Suddenly, Ezekiel, her colleague on the expedition, approaches her from behind. He is supposed to be responsible for her safety. He asks her if she has found the spider she's been searching for or not yet, because they've been very patient on this expedition. Webb tells him that the spider she's looking for has extraordinary capabilities. She discovered that the spider's venom contains highly healing enzymes. Not only that, but it also grants the body superhuman strength and keeps a person youthful forever. Ezekiel responds, saying that the superpowers of mythical spiders are just stories. Webb tells him that this type of spider is merely a myth with no real existence. According to the myth, these are human-like spiders that live on mountain peaks. They can poison anyone they touch, and the venom immediately stops the victim's heart. Of course, scientifically, there is no type of spider with such abilities. Their conversation is interrupted by the pain Webb begins to feel in her abdomen due to her pregnancy with her daughter. She remarks that her daughter seems not to want her to continue working. Ezekiel advises her to rest because of the pregnancy, but she refuses, saying she is very close to finding what she's been searching for. Ezekiel leaves and returns to the tent. Secretly, he enters her tent and photographs all her research and sketches of the spider. Suddenly, he hears her voice, excitedly shouting that she has finally found the spider she's been looking for. Everyone gathers around her, thrilled, as they observe the spider. At this moment, Ezekiel reveals his betrayal, pulling out a gun and killing everyone. Webb, terrified, asks him why he's doing this since he's supposed to protect her. He responds, saying he has been searching for this spider for years. He plans to use it to become rich and create a fortune. She tries to convince him to abandon this idea, emphasizing that the spider can heal many people and treat numerous diseases. However, he remains determined and threatens her, saying if she doesn't give him the spider, he will kill her. Webb clings to the spider as if she needs it personally. Ezekiel shoots her and takes the spider, fleeing the scene. Webb collapses to the ground, dying from the gunshot wound. Suddenly, a strong storm erupts. Ezekiel quickly escapes with the spider. Human-like spiders descend from the trees and gather around Webb. They carry her to a strange and mysterious place. They place her in a healing water pool, and their leader attempts to heal her with a bite from the spider. At the same time, they assist her in giving birth to her daughter safely. The leader tells her that her daughter's life will not be easy, but she is strong and will one day return here to seek answers to her questions. He promises her that he will be waiting to help her when she returns. Although the spider's bite was powerful and could heal her, Webb still dies while trying to hold her daughter's hand. Unfortunately, her life comes to an end. 30 years later, we see Webb's grown daughter, now named Cassie, working as a paramedic in New York's emergency services. Currently, she is driving an ambulance at high speed to save a critical patient inside. Her colleague, Ben, is providing necessary first aid to the patient. Despite Cassie's driving skills, the streets are extremely congested today. Suddenly, a girl on a scooter appears in her path, nearly causing an accident. This girl looks at Cassie in a hostile manner. Cassie is surprised but continues her way quickly. After successfully saving the patient, a little boy thanks Cassie and gives her a drawing he made of her and her family. She accepts it and thanks him. Later, the doctor allows the sick woman's husband to visit his wife. Meanwhile, another girl appears. The girl tells the doctor she wants to check on her stepmother, but her father refuses and asks her to wait. Afterward, Cassie talks to Ben about family life, expressing her dislike for it since she has never had a family. She grew up in an orphanage after losing her mother. Ben shares that he plans to start a family soon and get married. Cassie congratulates him. She opens a fortune cookie and finds only one word inside: future. She doesn't understand it, but doesn't care much. Later, at home, Cassie notices her neighbor arguing with the landlord about rent, as she clearly cannot afford to pay. Cassie looks at her with sympathy before heading to her apartment. She feeds her cat milk and stares at the drawing the boy gave her, hinting that she wishes she had a family beyond just her cat. She opens a box belonging to her mother, Dr. Webb, and examines her mother's photos and research about spiders. She wonders if her mother's passion for spiders was worth sacrificing her life for. Cassie seems to believe her mother cared more about her work than anything else, which is why she sacrificed herself and deprived Cassie of her presence. The next day, Cassie goes to work, responding to an emergency due to a major accident on a bridge involving 3 cars. One of the cars has flipped over and is hanging off the edge of the bridge. Cassie enters the car to rescue the man inside. Ben assists her from the driver's side. Cassie manages to free the man from his seatbelt, allowing Ben to pull him out from the other side. However, the car loses balance and falls into the water with Cassie still inside. Ben tries to save her, but it's in vain. Cassie plunges into the sea inside the car. The surprise is that nothing happens to her. Instead, a strange light emanates from her, forming a large web around her. Oddly, she begins hearing voices of events that haven't occurred yet, as if someone is measuring pressure and saying it's unstable, urging her to go to the hospital. She hears warnings and finds her hands covered in blood. Other voices mention that the place is a trap for people, and she cannot save all three at once. A stronger voice tells her she can exist in multiple places simultaneously using her web. It also reveals she has the power to see the future and change it. Suddenly, she feels someone pulling her strongly, calling her name and telling her to breathe. She wakes up to find herself on the shore, the situation she fell into, the one she caused herself. But it started working again when he resuscitated her. She thanks him and goes with him to check her pulse and blood pressure, and he tells her she needs to go to the hospital for treatment. She feels something strange here, as if she has heard this sentence before. What's even stranger is that the situation repeats itself, and he checks her blood pressure again. She thinks it's all just a joke from her colleagues, but he doesn't understand what she's talking about. The important thing is, she tells him she doesn't need to go to the hospital and just wants to go home. On the other hand, we see Ezekiel, who is still living with full youth and strength. Now he appears in the lab, and it seems he's there for a specific purpose to lure that woman to the house. When we go to his house, we learn the secret of his youth and strength because he has the spider he stole from Dr. Webb over 30 years ago. But the problem is, every night, he dreams of the same nightmare. 3 human-like spider girls attacking him in his house, fighting him fiercely, and even throwing him out the window, killing him instantly. In reality, he appears old and weak. He wakes up furious from the dream, and he's seeing the same nightmare for a while and knows how he will die. The problem is, he sees the 3 girls who will kill him but doesn't know how to find them and kill them before they kill him. He also tells her that science has advanced now, and he can identify exactly who they are because the national security systems have devices that can retrieve all the information about anyone just by seeing their face or identifying their features. The woman tries to calm him down and tells him it's just a dream, but at that moment, she realizes Ezekiel brought her there because she works in national security. She tries to draw her weapon to kill him, but Ezekiel overpowers her, grabs her hand tightly, and transfers poison into her body, weakening her. He demands her security code to access national security, and although she initially refuses, the poison forces her to give it to him. However, he kills her. The next day, we see Cassie going to a party with her friends, and they're all happy to see her after what happened. They are surprised she died and came back to life. Cassie then enters the celebration organized by Mary, Richard's wife, to celebrate her upcoming childbirth. Cassie participates in the celebration but clearly doesn't enjoy the vibes or know how to lighten up. She gets confused while speaking, and everyone teases her and finds her behavior strange. Suddenly, they play a game to guess the name chosen for the baby, and strangely, the moment Cassie says the name, the whole situation repeats itself, leaving her puzzled. She thinks they are joking, and it's part of the game, but the moment is interrupted when Ben enters and urgently asks her to come with him because they have a critical operation. They all rush into action and find a massive fire at the dock with many injured people. Everyone helps save someone, and the firefighters work to extinguish the fire. Cassie tries to resuscitate a dead person, but sees Ben running toward the ambulance in a certain state. She manages to figure out the issue with the case from a distance, surprising Ben and his colleagues, who thank her. But then she sees a man running, telling the forces he needs to save his men inside, the 4C. Forces tell him the place is full of explosives, like a trap for people. Cassie feels like she's heard this statement before while she was drowning. What's even stranger is that she imagines her hands covered in blood just as she saw them while drowning, as if events are repeating themselves, warning her that something big is about to happen soon. At this point, her superior, O'Neill, is heading to get into the ambulance to save more people. After reviving the man in her hands, Cassie runs toward O'Neill, stopping him from getting into the ambulance and asking him to let her take it instead. But he refuses, saying the last incident affected her a bit. Suddenly, as he closes the door after getting in, she feels like he's going to have an accident. Indeed, as he moves and reaches the beginning of the road, a large truck crashes into him, killing him instantly. Cassie runs to him to try to save him, but he's covered in blood, and his life is over. Ben pulls her away, saying it's no use. He's already dead. At that moment, her hands are actually covered in blood, and she believes the vision she saw. She then realizes that what she saw while drowning were future events that would happen to her. Meanwhile, after Ezekiel gains control of the national security devices, he appoints a Mariah, a technology specialist, to use these devices to identify the 3 who will kill him. She expresses her astonishment at the capabilities of these devices, as they monitor everything, meaning people are being watched everywhere and at any time. They also manage to hack into any security system, account, or administration, no matter how secure. Ezekiel asks her to show him the images of the three who will kill him. She provides him with real pictures of them, stating that these girls will definitely gain extraordinary powers, meaning they are still young teenagers. She then inputs the images into the system to retrieve their current photos. Ezekiel asks her to locate them and provide information about them because he doesn't want everything he's built to go to waste. Amaria tells him that if the girls go to any public place, museum, or use an ATM, the system will be able to locate them and identify their identities. We then shift to Kat, who visits a psychologist and tells her everything that happened and about the future vision. The psychologist conducts all tests and assures her she's fine, but says the incidents she experienced have definitely affected her. First, the accident that stopped her heart, and second, O'Neill's death. She tells Kat the only solution is to take a break and rest at home for a while. Kat goes home and spends her time watching TV, but Ben calls her to inform her about O'Neill's funeral. She doesn't answer because she's upset about him. Strangely, she hears someone on TV asking if future visions are real. She tells herself that even if they are real, she won't be able to change the future. She gets up to take food out of the oven but suddenly drops a glass, breaking it. Suddenly, something hits the glass window forcefully, breaking it. She goes to the window to see what broke it and finds a dead pigeon that crashed into the glass. But strangely, when she opens the window, there's no pigeon or anything else, and the glass isn't broken. The same TV scene repeats itself, and she tells herself that no one can change the future. But suddenly, as she opens the window, a pigeon flies in and flutters around the apartment. She realizes she has managed to change the future. She's still alive. At that moment, she understands that she can indeed alter the future. She decides to travel to figure everything out, and the surprise begins. When she arrives at the train station, we see the three girls we had seen earlier, but each of them is on a different path, coming from different places and countries to the station to travel, with no connection between them. Suddenly, we see Amaria monitoring movements in all locations. She identifies each of the girls and their locations. She immediately contacts Ezekiel to inform him of everything that has happened, prompting him to rush to the station as soon as he learns they're there. Their names are also revealed: Anya, Marsa, and Julia. At the same time, Cassie remembers something and boards the train. She experiences the same state that comes over her and envisions Anya, sitting far from her, being murdered by a man with great force. Suddenly, this man transforms into a strange-looking spider. She snaps back to reality, realizing it was just a dream. But moments later, she imagines the same man killing Julia, followed by Marsa. At that moment, she understands that these three girls will die in a horrifying manner soon. As she decides to leave the train and remove herself from the situation, she sees the same man boarding the train with the girls. She runs to them, wakes them up, and urges them to get off the train immediately and come with her. They do get off, but none of them understand what's going on. They believe she's trying to kidnap them. One of them calls the police, but Cassie stops her. The surprise is that the man transforms into a spider and comes after them. Cassie quickly takes them and escapes into another train. Suddenly, they hear the train scream as someone attacks it. Cassie takes them to an emergency exit from the train. As soon as they get out, she directs them to an emergency exit leading to the street. But suddenly, they find the police in front of them. When they try to seek help, the police arrest Cassie, believing she is the one who kidnapped the girls, as Julia had screamed earlier. Suddenly, someone attacks and kills all the officers. Of course, it's the same man trying to fend off the police and reach them. Cassie takes the girls and flees as fast as she can until they reach the street. They find an open taxi, which Cassie steals and drives away quickly. Throughout the ride, they discuss what happened, with no one understanding anything about who is chasing them or who they are. Cassie reassures them and introduces herself, admitting she also doesn't understand what's happening, but believes the police must have arrested the man by now. The strange thing is, when they turn on the radio and hear the news, they learn that the police are searching for her, accusing her of kidnapping the three girls. Cassie gets angry and blames Julia for screaming and calling the police. Julia apologizes, explaining that she was scared and didn't understand anything. Clearly, everyone is terrified and starts arguing. Cassie calms them down again, assuring them that everything will be sorted out and that they will eventually go to the police to tell the truth. For now, however, they need to hide until they figure out what to do. Meanwhile, Ezekiel is unable to find their location. He contacts Amaria to track them using her devices, but she tells him they must have gone to an abandoned place without cameras or surveillance devices, making it impossible to locate them. Cassie and the girls head to a forested area with trees. There, they try to discuss what's happening. The three girls begin to suspect that all connected somehow to Cassie. Julie turns out to be the daughter of the woman Cassie saved earlier at the hospital, and her little brother was the one who gave Cassie the drawing. Anya is her neighbor who hadn't paid the rent, and Marsa is the eccentric teenager who had stood in front of the ambulance and left a strange impression. Suddenly, everything starts to make sense. and the girls realize there's a secret behind all of this. Cassie then confesses to them, "I see the future, and I saw this man killing you on a train and turning into a spider." But she admits she doesn't know who he is or why he wants to kill them. Julia then comments that he's like a human spider, which triggers a memory in Cassie. She recalls reading something similar in her mother's old diaries. So she tells them she needs to leave for just 3 hours. She must go home to gather information and come back with answers. The girls are clearly frightened about being left alone in the forest, but Cassie reassures them that she won't be gone long and urges them to stay put and wait for her return. Cassie hurries back to her house, opens her mother's box, and begins reading. She discovers that the human spider creature truly exists and is known as Las Arnia S, a being that gained its power from the venom of a specific type of spider. It possesses extreme strength, incredible speed, and the ability to crawl on walls like a reptile. Even more frightening, they have a sixth sense and can predict the future. Cassie finds a photo of her mother standing next to the same man who's been chasing her. Meanwhile, the girls are still in the forest, sitting together and growing hungry. Marcia casually mentions that her parents live in Beijing and only send her money to get by. Julia opens up as well, explaining that her mother is in a mental health facility and she lives with her father, his wife, and their child, none of whom pay any attention to her or care about her feelings. Marcia then suggests they go to a nearby restaurant to eat and clear their heads. They start walking through the forest toward a restaurant, though Julia keeps reminding them that they need to be careful and avoid being seen. Eventually, they find a large restaurant with loud music and decide to sit and eat. As they settle in, Julia notices a young woman at another table and seems interested in her, so she asks Marcia to come with her to try to get to know the woman. At the same time, an old man sitting in the corner reading a newspaper recognizes their faces. The paper contains a headline about the kidnapping of the 3 girls, along with their photos. He realizes they are the same girls sitting right in front of him and quietly contacts the police. The news quickly reaches Miriam, who immediately understands where they are. She informs Akyal, who rushes to the scene. At the same time, Akyal sends out a coded alert, telling the police not to send any visible forces to the restaurant. He claims to have searched it and found nothing. Meanwhile, Cassie arrives at the forest and finds the girls missing. She starts calling out for them and searching everywhere, but there's no sign of them. She continues walking through the trees until she finally reaches the restaurant. But she is very upset because Cassie didn't tell them to do anything and just asked them to stay in the forest. She angrily enters the restaurant and scolds them. They all approach her apologetically for what they did, but before they can leave, Ezekiel appears in front of them. Cassie screams to save Julia, but Ezekiel is faster. He grabs her, slams her head, and breaks her bones, killing her instantly. Everyone is terrified and tries to escape, but he catches Marcia and kills her too. Interestingly, he hesitates with Anya. Cassie gets up again to stop him, grabs a knife, and tries to kill him. However, he takes the knife from her and kills her with it. Cassie screams and wakes up from her dream, realizing it was all a vision of the future. She gets in the car to change what she saw. At that moment, the girls start dancing and singing in the restaurant. Suddenly, they see Ezekiel entering. They try to escape, but Cassie suddenly crashes her car into the restaurant, hitting Ezekiel. She takes the girls to flee, but Ezekiel grabs Cassie's hand and tries to poison her. Strangely, nothing happens to her except for pain in her hand. She takes the girls and gets them onto the road, scolding them for what they did. They apologize again and promise to follow her instructions. Ezekiel contacts Amaria to locate the girls again. The problem is, she tells him that the information she discovered about the girl protecting them, Cassie, reveals that she is the daughter of Dr. Webb, an expert in arachnology. Ezekiel is shocked. Meanwhile, Cassie reaches a distant hotel with the girls to rest. She tells them that tomorrow, she will take each of them back to their homes and families to protect them, but all of them refuse, explaining that their families don't care about them. Julia reveals that her mother was admitted to a psychiatric facility after divorcing her father. Since then, she has lived with her father and his wife, who don't love her. She was planning to run away from them the day she met Cassie. Marcia says her parents see her as a burden and left her. Anya explains that her father was deported from America because his papers weren't legal. If anyone finds out, she'll be sent to foster care. Cassie tells her that foster care would be safe, but the 3 girls plead with her to help them and stay with them. Cassie thinks about how to solve this problem. At night, while the girls are sleeping, she takes her bag to leave without them knowing. On the way, she finds a strange place that appears to have been broken into and robbed. She enters to investigate and finds Ezekiel behind her. He expresses surprise, saying no one survives his poison, especially a dose as strong as the one he gave her. She asks him why he wants to kill these girls, and he told her the truth and asked her the place where she hid the girls and then returned to her normal life. Suddenly, Cassie wakes up from sleep and finds herself still on the bed next to the girls. She gets up, wakes the girls, talks to them, and tells them that she has discovered new information about that man. She reveals that with just one touch of his hand, he can poison and kill anyone, stopping their heart instantly. She explains that if this happens to anyone, they must revive each other. She teaches them how to perform heart resuscitation so they can save one another if anything happens. Afterward, she shows them a picture of her mother with Ezekiel and tells them that he used to work with her mother. That's why she needs to travel to Peru, as that's the location of her mother's last research. She takes the girls to Ben so he can look after them until she returns. On the way, she opens her mother's journal and starts reading the information inside. When she arrives at the Peruvian jungle, the same place her mother had been, she feels something strange, as if she's witnessing what happened that day. Suddenly, someone appears behind her and says, "I've been waiting for you." It's the leader of the human spider group who had tried to treat her mother. He tells her that he promised her mother he would wait for her to come so he could answer all the questions in her mind. She asks him about Ezekiel and his terrifying power. He explains that her mother came to this expedition to search for spiders with high healing abilities. She had thought Ezekiel was carrying out the mission, but turned out to be a traitor. He killed everyone, took the spider, and fled to exploit it for his own purposes. From that day, he brought upon himself a curse, believing he could see his own inevitable fate. The leader tells her that she must continue her life and harness her abilities, but she doesn't understand what he means. He asks if she trusts him, and before she can answer, he pushes her with all his strength into the sacred lake. At that moment, light emerges from her, and she sees everything that happened during her mother's journey when she was searching for the spider. She sees Ezekiel beside her mother, and witnesses him killing her when she refused to give him the spider. Her mother apologizes to her daughter, saying she couldn't protect her. The Las Arenas spiders intervened to save the mother and daughter, but unfortunately, they couldn't save the mother. However, they managed to save Cassie and keep her healthy because the baby was supposed to be born with muscular dystrophy. Cassie learns this was the reason behind her mother's journey and research on the spiders. Before her mother left, she had gone to the doctor, who confirmed through tests that the fetus had muscular dystrophy, a disease with no known cure. Cassie could have died shortly after birth, but her mother, Webb, refused to give up and decided to save her daughter. That's why she traveled to the Peruvian jungle to search for the healing spiders. Cassie realizes that she had misjudged her mother, who sacrificed herself to try to save her. The surprise is that she can hug her mother and see her, reassuring her that she succeeded, that she didn't get the disease, and that she's living a good life. Cassie returns to the present, having understood everything. She asks the leader about the extent of her power, because she feels incapable of doing anything other than seeing the future. She worries this won't be enough to stop Ezekiel, who wants to kill the three girls. The leader tells her that she doesn't yet know the full extent of her power or how to control it, but she has great strength, and she's the only one who can change the future. He also reveals that she can exist in multiple places at the same time, but she'll only discover her full power when she's put in a position of complete responsibility or a difficult situation. Meanwhile, it's been a week without finding the girls. He tells Maria that she must find the girls, who are currently with Ben. Maria, who is Ezekiel's sister, has taken on the responsibility of protecting them and keeping them in the house. However, Maria feels like she's about to give birth, so they all leave the house cautiously, hoping no one sees them, and head to the hospital for Maria to give birth. While on the way, Martha looks out of the car window, and her image appears on a street surveillance camera. Maria sees this and informs Ezekiel, who quickly heads to the location. At this moment, Cassie returns from her journey and goes to Ben's house but finds no one there. She looks through the house's window and sees a vision of Ezekiel finding the girls and killing them all. She rushes to save them before he reaches them. She finds a large ambulance, steals it, and drives it straight to the girls. At this time, Ben and the girls are still on the road. Ezekiel appears above them and instructs Maria to hack the traffic signals and turn them all green. When she does this, cars start colliding, trapping Ben's car among them. Ezekiel stands on Ben's car, causing everyone inside to be terrified. Just then, Cassie arrives in the ambulance, crashes through a billboard, and ties Ezekiel up, knocking him to the ground with the bomb in his hand. When it explodes, Cassie returns to the girls, puts them in the ambulance, and asks Ben to take Maria to the hospital and keep her away, because Ezekiel won't be interested in them anymore. She takes the ambulance and escapes with the girls. Surprisingly, Ezekiel gets up again and chases after them. The girls are happy that Cassie is back to protect them. Cassie decides to set a trap for Ezekiel, charging an electric device. When he jumps onto the ambulance roof, she electrocutes him, causing him to fall to the ground. However, the ambulance runs out of fuel and stops on the road. Everyone is scared. Cassie tries to think of a solution. When she focuses her mind, she's able to determine the path they can take to escape. She uses the ambulance device to call for a rescue helicopter to come and save them. She reassures the girls that she won't abandon them. They leave the ambulance and head to the building where the previous incident occurred, which they had described as a trap filled with explosives. She enters with the girls and finds the ambulance plane has arrived at the rooftop. She asks the girls to light fireworks and run after them, and they actually do so. What she predicted happens. Ezekiel appears and tries to catch them, but the explosive fireworks detonate on him, pushing him away from them. They all manage to get to the rooftop to board the plane, but then the explosives come their way. At that moment, Cassie grabs a shield and protects them until they reach the plane. Of course, she keeps them away from all the paths she thinks might harm them. But suddenly, Ezekiel appears again and throws explosives at the plane, destroying it. Each of the girls tries to escape, but Ezekiel catches Cassie and tries to kill her with all his might. At this point, Marcia comes to try to stop him, but he hits her, leaving her hanging on the edge of the bridge, about to fall. She tries to save Cassie, but he also strikes her, leaving her hanging on the edge of the rooftop. Julia runs to attack Ezekiel, but he hits her the same way. At that moment, Ezekiel tells her that she won't be able to save all three of them at the same time. But then, Cassie focuses her power and manages to exist in multiple places at once, creating her web and saving all three of them. Unfortunately, Ezekiel hits her hard, and she falls as well. But of course, she sees the future and knows the bridge will collapse. She climbs onto it and lures Ezekiel to follow her. When he does, he keeps threatening her, saying she won't be able to defeat him and that she is stupid and weak like her mother. But she confidently tells him that she is indeed like her mother and that she doesn't give up. Suddenly, she jumps off the bridge, pulling Ezekiel down with her. He falls, and Cassie tells him that he thought the girls would be the ones to kill him. But the truth is that she was the one in his dreams, and she is the one who kills him. The bridge collapses, taking Ezekiel down with it, and falls on him, killing him. However, the spot where Cassie was standing also collapses. She falls into the sea, and a large part of the bridge falls on her. The girls scream loudly, and Julia dives into the sea to save her. When they bring her out, her heart has stopped. They perform the CPR technique she taught them, bringing her back to life. They all rejoice in their victory over Ezekiel. Later at the hospital, we find out that Mary has given birth to a boy, and in the same hospital, Cassie is being treated for the injuries, which seem to have affected her eye. The three girls are by her side, reassuring her that they will always stay with her, telling, "They are my family." After some time, we see Cassie at home. Despite being paralyzed and blind, she is happy because the three girls live with her, and they continue to laugh and joke together. She still has her ability to see the future and tells them they will have incredible powers in the future. They will fight evil and never give up, gaining the powers of the spider. However, she will be their base, and the four of them will become a superhero spider team. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification